Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. He whose desires have been throttled, who is independent of root, whose pasture is emptiness, signless and free, his path is as unknowable as that of birds across the heavens. Dhammapada 93. His followers called him Mahasamatman and said he was a god. He preferred to drop the Maha and the Atman, however, and called himself Sam. He never claimed to be a god, but then he never claimed not to be a god. Circumstances being as they were, neither admission could be of any benefit. Silence, however, could. Therefore, there was a mystery about him. It was in the season of the rains. It was well into the time of the great wetness. It was in the days of rain that their prayers went up, not from the fingering of knotted prayer cords or the spinning of prayer wheels, but from the great praying machine in the monastery of Ratri, goddess of the night. The high-frequency prayers were directed upward through the atmosphere and out beyond it, passing into that golden cloud called the Bridge of the Gods, which circles the entire world. It is seen as a bronze rainbow at night, and is the place where the red sun becomes orange at midday. Some monks doubted the orthodoxy of this prayer technique, but the machine has been built and was operated by Yamadharma, fallen of the celestial city. And it was told he had ages ago built the mighty thunder chariot of Lord Shiva, that engine that fled across the heavens, belching gouts of fire in its wake. Despite his fall from favor, Yama was still deemed mightiest of the artificers, though it was not doubted that the gods of the city would have him die the real death, were they to learn of the prayer machine. For that matter, it was not doubted that they would have him die the real death without the excuse of the prayer machine, also were he to come into their custody. How he would come to settle this matter with the Lords of Karma was his own affair, though none doubted that when the time came, he would find a way. It was half as old as the celestial city itself, and not more than 10 of the gods remembered the founding of that abode. It was known to be wiser even than the Lord Kubera in the ways of the universal fire. But these were his lesser attributes. He was best known for one thing, though few men spoke of it. Tall, but not overly so. Big, not heavy. His movements slow and fluent. He wore red and spoke little. He tended the praying machine, and the giant metal lotus he had set atop the monastery roof turned in its sockets. A light rain was falling upon the building, the lotus, and the jungle at the foot of the mountains. For 6 days he had offered many kilowatts of prayer, but the static kept him from being heard on high. Under his breath, he called upon the more notable of the current fertility deities, invoking them in terms of their most prominent attributes. A rumble of thunder answered his petition, and a small ape who assisted him chuckled. "Your prayers and curses come to the same, Lord Yama. That is to say, nothing," commented the ape.
"It has taken you 17 incarnations to arrive at this truth,"
said Yama.
"I can see then why you are still doing time as an ape."
"Not so," said the ape, whose name was Tak. "My fall, while less spectacular than your own, nevertheless involved elements of personal malice on part of—"
"Enough!"
Tak realized then that he might have touched upon a sore spot. In an attempt to find another subject of conversation, he crossed to the window, leapt onto its wide sill, and stared upward. "There's a break in the cloud cover, to the west," he said. Yama approached, followed the direction of his gaze, frowned, then nodded.
"Aye,"
he said.
"Stay where you are and advise me."
He moved to a bank of controls. Overhead, the lotus halted in its turning, then faced the patch of bare sky.
"Very good,"
he said.
"We are getting something."
His hands moved across a separate control panel, throwing a series of switches and adjusting 2 dials. Below them, in the cavernous cellars of the monastery, the signal was received, and other preparations were begun. The host was made ready. "The clouds are coming together again," cried Tak.
No matter now.
said the other.
We've hooked our fish. Out of Nirvana and into the Lotus he comes.
There was more thunder, and the rain came down with a sound like hail upon the Lotus. Snakes of blue lightning coiled, hissing about the mountaintops. Yama sealed the final circuit. How do you think he will take to wearing the flesh again? Asked Tak.
Go peel bananas with your feet.
Tak chose to consider this as a dismissal, and departed the chamber, leaving Yama to close down the machinery. He made his way along the corridor and down a wide flight of stairs. He reached the landing, and as he stood there, he heard the sounds of voices and the shuffling of sandals coming in his direction from out a side hall. Without hesitating, he climbed the wall, using a series of carved panthers and an opposing row of elephants as handholds. Mounting a rafter, he drew back into a well of shadow and waited, unmoving.